Okay, everybody. So welcome. So we're doing Sichah 154 today, which, God willing, it's a great one. Anyways, I want to dedicate this shiur to the safe return of the hostages and the shiur of our soldiers, and also refuah shlema for Uriel ben Tzipora.
For all the hostages that were released.
Yeah. I mean, did you think everyone would come back treated well? It's like denial.
I actually expected everyone to come back the way they looked this week.
Right.
Up until this week, I was like,
it's shocking. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, they look okay. They're walking, like, this is how you expect prisoners to look when they've been under Hamas rule.
No, it's only going to get worse.
Right,
but this is what you expect. This is how you expect them to
Men
look.
were treated
You
worse.
imagine that they were tortured. You imagine they were starved. You imagine that they
There's a
come
lot
back
of
and
what they went through that we can't even tell.
Right, and by the way, that for
Yeah, of
me
course.
is
I think just
I try so
physical
hard to not
things.
imagine.
The
how,
girls
like,
came back in a much better state than I
Yeah.
expected.
I
Like
think
that.
they were,
I
I think because they were like
Looking,
so
like,
they
you
had
know,
food.
it looked that way.
It looked like
Yeah, look, emotionally
Right.
and emotionally and mentally, we can't begin to imagine ever what any of them are going through.
And
they'll be in
and
suffering for the rest of their lives.
physically,
But the way
you know,
they physically look,
they did.
everyone say it's terrible, terrible.
And
Of
they're
course it's
young
terrible.
and they're
But this is what
vibrant
I expect everyone to
Right.
look terrible. Yeah, I expect everyone to look terrible like this.
Okay, you ready? Yeah, we're moving on. Okay. No, I mean, it's hard. It's hard stuff. They should all have a refuah shlema. Okay. I heard that so Sichah 154. I heard that the Rebbe once said, "My achievements came mainly through simplicity. I spent much time simply conversing with God and reciting the Psalms. This is how he achieved what he did." He said, "If only I would have known that God would make me the unique person I am today, I would have done in one day what took me an entire year." That is, the Rebbe would have been so enthusiastic, he would have done as much in a single day as he used to do in an entire year. I guess it means that his work paid off.
No, also because he was like at the beginning, he was like very into
In-
the hard way. You know what I mean?
Right.
travel.
Like,
he would
he
would like fast and he
Right.
would do like
And
and
do his
then
own.
and then at the end he said like you realize that it's really very simple and you could achieve what it's like a shortcut.
Right.
As opposed to, like,
Right, his Buddhist and just tefillah and just
like in one
being
day, you could
in
achieve
joy.
what in a year of,
Right,
Right, self-inflicted.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
exactly. The Rebbe deeply yearned to serve God with the artless simplicity of the ordinary person. He often said, I, prustic, oh, simplicity. That was like connected to last week's Sichos Haram, right? And Likutei Moharan that we did.
What's simplicity in Hebrew?
Tmimas.
Pashtas, no?
Yeah.
What's your pashtas?
I think he means Tmimas. I mean, this one, yeah. We'll probably see it in the Likutei Moharan piece, the Hebrew word. This version doesn't have Hebrew.
No.
The Rebbe also said, "I've spoken with many great tzaddikim. They all said that they attained their high level through prustik, absolute simplicity. They would do the simplest things, secluding themselves and conversing with God. This is how they attain what they did. Fortunate are they." Okay, so there's a lot to say even just on this, but I mean, this is like pretty self-explanatory, and the Likutei Moharan piece that we're going to do is also pretty self-explanatory, so it will be like easier than last week's, but like it's like Rebbe, we're going to see this theme, and we've seen this theme many times, like just being simple, like not being too complicated, not going into like all our convoluted thoughts, not going into wherever our minds tend to take us. He was very against philosophy. We're going to read about it in the Likutei Moharan piece also. Like there was just no point in it. Like he said, the way to come close to Hashem is just like simple faith. That's it. Right, Emunah pshuta, exactly. So, okay, so we'll go straight into the Likutei Moharan piece. So it's Likutei Moharan Tanina, 19. Okay. The ultimate goal and perfection is nothing other than to serve God with absolute simplicity, without any cleverness whatsoever. Tmimas, that's the Hebrew. Lonnie. without any cleverness whatsoever. There are philosophers who maintain that the ultimate goal and the world to come are nothing other than to know each thing as it is. For example, knowing the star as it is, knowing the innate nature and why it is positioned where it is. So, so Rebbe Nachman's saying here that the ultimate goal is just to serve Hashem with this tmimas pshisas, with this absolute simplicity. No cleverness, no like convoluted ideas, no trying. I have it in the bathroom. Okay, thanks, sorry. Straight ahead. Okay. Just like serving Hashem through straightforwardness. And I love that. Okay, well, I'll go into this later, but so in his time there were it was the Haskalah movement, so they were all into like philosophy. Yeah, he's addressing that. So
He was before that.
No, he was. I mean, there were different Haskalas, so I don't know which one was specifically his. Hey, welcome. Nah, you don't need to. It doesn't matter. Come in. There's a seat right here. Okay, so hey. So in his do I have another sheet for you? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're discussing the theme of simplicity. Yeah. Okay, so basically in his time it was like the Haskalah movement and people were being dragged into like philosophizing, and he said in other places, he's like, you'll never see somebody who like came to like true like high levels of holiness from being a philosopher, because a lot of people like used it like, no, we need to understand why we do a mitzvah, and we need to understand like the reason behind this and this, but like that's not like Rebbe Nachman was very against that. Like he's like, you're never, it's limiting, like you're never going to understand God's ways, which actually I just realized I photocopied another Sichah Saram piece for you, right?
101.
Fine, so I'm taking a break and we're just going to read that first, because I feel like it really just explains it even more. Like many times the Rebbe said that no sophistication is needed in serving God. All that is required is simplicity, sincerity, and faith. The Rebbe said that simplicity is the highest possible thing. God is certainly higher than all else, and God is ultimately simple. Right? Like Hashem is one. Like this is probably one of my favorite sichas. I just like enough said. Like Hashem is one. There's no complications. There's just Hashem is ultimately simple. And like to try and like understand and like our human minds can't grasp Hashem.
It's a waste of time.
Right. It is a waste of time.
Like
That's exactly what he's saying.
It, so like,
right. You're not going to get it, and and we can't even understand what it means that Hashem is ultimately simple. Like it's just,
right, like Hashem Echad.
what does that mean? Like all we see in our world is division. But like that's exactly where like our mind has to jump from trying to understand to simple faith. Like
To understanding that you don't understand.
we don't understand. We can't understand God. We can't understand for sure. We can't understand His ways, and for sure we can't understand Him, and for sure we can't understand how this is all one when it looks like it's not one. Like we can't understand. And that's what Rebbe Nachman's but I guess in his time, and I think in our time too, like people are trying to explain away.
Trying to make sense.
Trying to make sense of all of it. There's no
It's hard. It's hard.
No, it's
like
natural.
Being simple is hard.
It's Hashem, like I was reading. There's like I was reading this in Brene Brown that she says in like one of her books that like our minds always love to find a reason for things. Like it's a natural. It's a human phenomenon, even if the reason is a horrible reason. It's just more comfortable to find the reason.
Most uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's
So-
almost like
you can prevent it.
like blame.
right.
Like you want to blame someone.
Exactly. Like she said, like she gives an example. Like let's say like you walk into your boss's office and he's like being really like disgusting to you for whatever. So right away, like it's much like the person leaves the office and like and they're like, oh my God, like he hates me probably because I didn't do this right or that right or whatever. And like, but it like, you know, and then it turns out like, you know, he comes back and apologizes and he's like, oh, I just had a really hard day, you know, and I'm sorry that I was like a little like snotty with you before, you know, but like our minds naturally want to find the reason, like want to find the blame, want to find, you know, even if it's an uncomfortable reason. So I don't remember what my point was of saying that, but
Simplicity.
what? Simplicity. Okay. Okay. Oh, we always try to find reasons for things. That's my point. But like, we just to like be like Judy, what you said, I love that. Like just being uncomfortable in the unknown, and just being like, the unknown is also a reason, you know?
It's just
Really
a hard
like,
one.
Right. It's a hard one. It's very hard to swallow.
We're not in control. We don't know
Right.
anything, then you feel like, yeah.
Right. If you don't know what's gonna happen, it's
I
scary.
feel like it's like we have to cling to it because it's really the only way to survive. Like Motzei Shabbos, I'm sure everybody here, like when we saw the news
Oh
and
my
we saw
gosh,
the way they
yeah.
looked, like you're trying to find a reason and explanation and how are we gonna pay them back and what are, you know what I mean, like what, and like how could Hashem do this or why or what or whatever, and it's just like you can't go down that road of like thinking because you're not gonna understand it. But the only way to survive it really is to cling to like,
Simple faith.
we don't understand why, but it's Hashem and it's good and somehow it's all part of like
Right.
Hashem's plan, like, but we just don't understand. It's
Right.
the only way.
Right. Exactly.
I had this quote, it's so good, I just keep repeating it in my mind. So it says, everything is already out of control, so you could just relax.
I love that.
Like, yes, life is out of control, now you can relax.
I love that. That's great. Okay. There are philosophers who maintain that the ultimate goal and the world to come are nothing other than to know each thing as it is. For example, knowing the star as it is, knowing its innate nature and why it is positioned where it is. I guess that's what like people were into during his time, you know? For there is the knower, the known, and the knowledge. The ability of the knower, the intellect itself, and the known object. For the philosophers, it is this which is the ultimate goal in the world to come, that the knower, the known, and the knowledge become one. So I guess like in his day, the philosopher, and maybe in our day too, but I don't know much about philosophy, bless you. But there was that, this was like the ultimate goal, that the knower, the known, and the knowledge become one. There's some like, I guess like uncovering the truths, and like it makes, there was some fulfillment there, you know? They spend all their days in this world on this, engaging in philosophical inquiry to attain the necessary truths, which they regard as the ultimate goal. In their opinion, this itself is the world to come. Notwithstanding that in this world, enclosed as they are in corporeality, the delight which they have from this philosophical inquiry is minimal. In the world to come, where they will strip away the body, they will have great delight from this. Thus, according to the nefarious ideas, the ultimate goal is primarily attained by means of their philosophy and secular wisdoms. So, I mean, like, basically, like, this is what the philosophers thought, that, like, they're going to try their best to understand everything now, and in the world to come, like, once they're separate from their bodies, they'll understand it even more, and that's the ultimate goal. So different, you know?
It's like they think they're left with the Sichah.
Right.
We believe you're left with the neshama, so they're putting all their energy on their Sichah.
Right.
That's interesting.
I love that. That's what this, you're right. That's what this is saying. Right. However, in fact, we regard the attainment of the ultimate goal to be essentially only through faith and applied mitzvos, worshiping Hashem based on the Torah with simplicity and straightforwardness. So I love that he says, like, simplicity and straightforwardness, because that's what, simplicity isn't, like, being in denial, you know? Like, I think, like, that's an important part, like, piece to stress. Like, it's straightforwardness, it's honesty. I was reading in The Body Keeps the Score. Like, so the author was talking about, like, his professor, who he says, like, denial, like he talks about like this is a quote from the book, but the greatest sources of suffering are the lies we tell ourselves. People cannot get better without knowing what they know and feeling what they feel. Like we're all like, and Rebbe Nachman also says like all suffering comes from a lack of das, and like hiding the book like continues to say like hiding and burying the truth leads to major pain and suffering. Like we're all experiential. Like we're experiential beings. Like we need to feel, we need to be honest with like what we feel and what we think, and like denying it is really, I mean, it is. It's like there's a lot of suffering that happens. So like when he says like simplicity and straightforwardness, like he doesn't mean denying. We're gonna read
like sweeping things under the rug,
right?
Ignoring problems.
Right. We're gonna read Rebbe Nachman's story. We're gonna read the Chocham and the Tam, God willing. Like that's what I want to bring, because it, like, I think it really, like, you can't understand what he means by simplicity without this story. Like I feel like it draws it out to major level. But like you'll see, like it's not sweeping things under the rug. It's like just being straightforward. Not lying to himself, not lying to others, just, like focused on the goal. Okay. And through this itself, we merit that which we merit. No eye has, meaning through this itself, because I took a break, sorry, like through faith and applied mitzvos, we merit what we merit. No eye has seen it, from Yeshaya, as it is written. And in Tehillim, the beginning of wisdom, Rishas Chachma, Yiras Hashem. Like the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. The main genesis and preface to wisdom is nothing but the fear of Hashem. One must make certain that the fear precedes the wisdom. So by the way, when we've explained this before, but like when we say fear, when we're talking about Yira, like Yiras Hashem means awareness of Hashem. That's what it means, like Ra'ah, like to see. Like it doesn't mean like necessarily, right. It doesn't mean fear of punishment is also a level, but like real Yiras Hashem is awareness of Hashem, like
to see, like
exactly. It's like everywhere to see Hashem. So like we have to make sure that the like God awareness, we have to have like God eyes, and that needs to precede the wisdom, the Chachma. Okay, I'm just looking if I wrote anything else here that I want to say. Okay. And you should know that the matter is not as they maintain, God forbid. For if it were so, the only very, very few, namely the intellectually elite philosophers, would attain the ultimate goal. Then what of the ordinary folk who lack the mind for engaging in philosophical inquiry to know the necessary truths? They are the majority and the nucleus of the world. How would they attain the ultimate goal?
Oh.
Hey, Barrett, welcome. No problem. There are folding chairs over there.
You don't have to. I asked.
Yeah. It doesn't
like
matter.
the crazy person.
It doesn't matter. Right. So Rebbe Nachman saying here, like, if it were true that, like, most people wouldn't be able to attain this like high levels of chachma. For sure, no woman would ever be able to attain it. To like think God was so busy with home stuff that like I don't know if we could sit for like hours on end discussing like I don't know if anyone would be interested in it, let alone to sit.
Also, it just wouldn't be fair. It can't be that Hashem made a world that only
Right.
the intellectual
That only
intellectual people can
Right.
like.
I guess also that's the whole Hasidus movement in general. Like the Baal Shem Tov tried to bring like Yiddishkeit to the masses. Like he tried to teach people, and we see obviously Rebbe Nachman, his great grandson, is trying to do the same. Like because I think there at that time there was a lot of like it was after Shabtai Tzvi, and people were very afraid of like what. People were very afraid in general, and they're just like just learn, and like not. But obviously, like the regular people weren't able to learn,
People had to earn a living.
Right. It was hard life. So they weren't able to,
Like
so
Svarim weren't very
accessible.
Thank you.
right. And also you had to really like sit and learn, and like I think like they say there was a big gap between like the Rebbeim and there was a big gap between the Rebbeim and the regular people. And Hasidus came to be like, no, you too could get to high levels. Like you don't have to.
You too movement.
Right.
Me too.
I think a little
Also, I
better.
think what-
Yeah.
I think what you're also alluding to is like there was this grasping in that generation of like something, like there was when there's a lot of suffering, like they went through a very hard like
Colors.
Persecution
a
and-
lot
Right.
of hard times before Shabbat. Like there was just
Right.
like also pogroms and murders
Right.
and all this stuff, and like there's this grasping of like what are we holding on to, and like I think I'm like I'm sensing the energy of like grasping on, okay, now we have to learn and we have to grasp and like
Right.
you know this is gonna make us, this is gonna set us
Save
straight,
us.
Right.
but it's much deeper than that.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a cost for it, but it's totally understandable at the
Yeah.
same time also,
I think there's also like a whole circle of people who feel like the people who don't serve God intellectually aren't as religious as them for knowing all the ins and outs of like the Svarim and this and that.
Right.
And to them, because they know so much more, they're able to serve God, they think, on a better level.
Right.
But it's not necessarily.
Right. There's
it's
still,
trying
I
to
think
say.
that still exists now too. That's like, but everyone has their own way of serving God. And as Rebbe Nachman's saying here, like, but in fact, I'm just going to read on because he says it right here. Attainment of the ultimate goal is specifically through simplicity, fear of God, and fulfilling the applied mitzvah with total straightforwardness. This is the meaning of ultimately all things having been considered, fear the Lord and keep his commandments. For this is the sum of all mankind. So that's from Koheles. So I'll just read it in Hebrew. Sof davar hakol nishma et ha'elokim yira et mitzvotav shemor ki zeh kol ha'adam. Like this is what Shlomo HaMelech is saying, who was the wisest of all men, and through Koheles he goes like maybe the best way to serve Hashem, maybe like the point of the world is to build big buildings, or maybe the point of the world is to do this or to do that. Like he goes through like all the different arguments, and then he's like, nah. That's the end. The end is ultimately like I considered everything because nobody's ever been smarter than me in the entire world, and the main thing is fear the Lord and keep his commandments.
It's so like optimistic and like
Right.
encouraging, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
You can do this.
Anyone
Right.
could do it and easily and simply.
And that's exactly what he's going to say. In other words, King Shlomo of blessed memory teaches us that the attainment of the ultimate goal, the concept of ultimately, is essentially only by means of simplicity and straightforwardness to fear God and observe his mitzvos straightforwardly.
But
And-
halacha is not anything but simple. Like think about an esrog or a Chanukah, like lighting them in. It's so intricate. Do you know what I'm saying? Like how
Right.
the halachas.
Halacha, right?
Oh,
Halacha is
Right.
quite complicated when it comes to
Right.
everything. Like what you can put on a hot plate, what you can't.
That's
like,
an interesting point.
It's not. Sometimes it's like stressful because it's not simple.
Right. He speaks about that too. We're not going to hit it in this piece, but like he says, like nobody should be, like if you want to take one mitzvah that you want to be like really, really makbid on, like fine, but otherwise like just,
Right.
I mean, he also said like everyone needs to learn halacha every day, like because it is complicated,
It's funny,
like
that's
like everyone should learn a halacha every day, but he was like very against, like I shouldn't say very against, but it seemed like he wasn't into being like hummerdick on all these things and like just bugging yourself out,
You can make
basically.
yourself crazy.
Yeah.
With every mitzvah, you can. make
Yeah,
yourself
he
look
says
crazy.
he's like the Torah was. I remember. I think we did this in Sichah, like the Torah wasn't given to angels. Like you just have to do your best, and like don't get discouraged. Like he speaks about that also. Listen, he knew, like Rebbe Nachman. Like I think that's what he's kind of coming to address. Like that Yiddishkeit could feel very heavy and very intense and very like, how am I ever going to get this all right? And that's what this is literally what he's coming to address. And this is like this shiur and so many of his other Torahs that he says, like, this is about just keep it simple. Like, just be honest and straightforward and just have simple faith,
So interesting because the Avos, if like we're supposed to be reaching their level, they didn't have the Torah, they didn't have any halakha.
Right,
They were all shepherds.
right.
So it's like, that's the ultimate level. It's interesting.
Right. I mean, we have to keep the Torah, but
Yeah, but I'm saying like
yeah,
the Avos, it's not like the Hashem made a Torah with people who are sitting and learning and studying and all day. I'm saying the Torah Shabbat Peh is like that, but
right.
it's interesting.
Maybe the
Yeah.
ultimate level is not about an objective set of actions. It's about the subjective experience of doing the best with what you have at that moment, and in that way, which was to emulate the Evo, right? So if they didn't have halacha and they used their guiding, their derech eretz as a guide, so maybe that's what we're meant to emulate, is that you do the best with what you have at the moment, and that's what's asked of you.
Right.
That answers your how to question also. Hey, what do you know right now? Okay, do what you know.
Right.
And you can call and ask her right after Shabbos if you want, but then to start beating yourself up over yes, no, that's the piece I think that Rebbe Nachman is trying to pull us out of.
Can I say
Right.
something really quick?
Yeah.
I was one time by a barbecue for this organization that I used to be part of. It's called Project Makom. It's Hasidim who, instead of going to footsteps, they go to Project Makom and they place them in Shomer Shabbos homes to experience like a mainstream other option. And this girl got up and asked the rabbi who was hosting the barbecue, you know, it says that I'm going to burn in hell if I don't keep Shabbos. Like, what do you say to that? And he starts going on and on and on, and the girl just was attacking him and attacking him and attacking him, and I felt so bad, and I was like, can I just say something like now? And I said, I want them to saw a video. I said, I don't remember the video exactly, but there's a panel of rabbis, and it was a conservative audience, and one of the guys got up and said, you know, they say that we're gonna basically go to hell if we don't keep Shabbos, but what are we keeping? Like, we're not keeping Shabbos. Like, so are we all going to hell? And one rabbi said something about like, oh, in the times of the Holocaust, like it was a tikkun for tznius and whatever. And then the other rabbi got up and he's like, you know, what's it called? It's we're here to be metaket. What's it called?
Metaket sounds right. I don't know.
Tikkun olam, right? And then the Chabad rabbi gets up and he goes, he's like, I don't know anything. Like, they all know, I don't know anything. He's like, but I heard from my rabbi that when we get up to Shemayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to say, did you do the best that you did in this situation? Mm-hmm. And these are all adults. A lot of them were sexually abused by family members, by the Rabbanim, and a lot of them have a lot of emotional trauma and whatever, and they're all struggling with just waking up in the morning. Like, a lot of them are really struggling just waking up in the morning and holding a job and whatever. And I was like, this rabbi said, my rabbi told me that when we get up to heaven, God's just not going to say, did you keep all 613 mitzvahs exactly the way you're supposed to? He's going to say, did you do the best that you can with what you had that day? And then the next day when you woke up again, did you do the best that you can that day?
Right.
And I think that's exactly what you're saying. It's not about the mitzvahs, it's about how we, you know, Brene Brown says, did you do the best that you can? And I don't think Brene Brown has a little bit of a different view than the Jews do when it comes to do you do the best that you can. But like, really, the reality is, I think that's what Hashem wants from us, to be up in the morning and do the best we can.
Yeah, even Rebbe Nachman says in like a different piece also, like he talks about learning Torah, and he says like he wasn't into like Be'iyun, you know, like he said just do B'kiyas, like just like try to get through as much Torah as you could, and you don't understand it, move on. The next year when you do it again, you'll understand it a little better. And that, like, it doesn't have to do with like grasping everything, you know, like, I mean, he was all about the journey. That's what this is about, you know, not the end process. Okay. And this is ultimately all things having been considered, fear the Lord and keep his commandments. This is the concept of simplicity and straightforwardness, to fear God and fulfill his mitzvos with deeds with straightforwardness. Thus he concludes, for this is all mankind. In other words, this is something all mankind can fulfill, and through it attain the ultimate goal, because the main thing is fear the Lord. Every person can therefore attain the ultimate goal, because this is something all mankind can fulfill. So that's what he was saying. Like, it's not like the philosophers that like only a short few. Like, this is for everybody, you know? In truth, being a philosopher or studying the texts of secular wisdom, God forbid, is a very serious prohibition. Only a very great tzaddik can immerse himself in this, to study the 7 wisdoms. Abigail, I'm going to hit 7. Okay, let me just finish. For anyone who enters into these wisdoms, God forbid, is in danger of falling there. This is because each type of wisdom contains a stumbling block, the concept of Amalek. Just fun that we're getting into this now. And also it's this week's Parsha. On account of this stumbling block, one is in danger of falling, God forbid. For Amalek was a philosopher and a rationalist, and he denied God's existence, as it is written in Devarim, and they did not fear God. That is, he's guided by wisdom that has absolutely no fear of God. But when the tzaddik delves, so Amalek is representing this philosophizing, this rationalizing, not like coming from a holy place, not coming from Yiras Hashem. When the tzaddik delves into these 7 wisdoms, I guess there were like 7 philosophical wisdoms, he holds firm and remains steadfast by means of faith, as in the tzaddik lives by his faith, from Chavkuk. For a tzaddik can fall 7 times and get up, right? Tzaddik Kisheva yipol tzaddik v'kam, right? In other words, the great tzaddik travels these 7 wisdoms, and even though there is a possibility that one will slip and fall on account of the stumbling block Amalek, nevertheless, if the tzaddik falls 7 times, he gets up by means of faith. So I just because I've got last week, so I just wanted to like go into 7 for a minute, but like I was like looking into it, and like 7 is like menorah is 7. There are 7 things to fill in 7 days in the week, right? There are ushpizin, there are 7 spheros, and then 3 higher.
7 about tefillin.
Yeah.
There are 7 compartments in tefillin. There's Shemitah, Yovel, Shabbos, right? So 6 represent. So I was reading that like 6 represent physical, like it's like the physical world, but Hashem created the world. Like literally he did the work in 6 days, but then he rested on the 7th. And 7th is it's basically transcending physicality into spirituality. And it's shlema, it represents like shlemas and holiness. So when Hashem made Shabbos in specific, like he put in, like on that day that he rested, he put in this layer of holiness into the world. So it's like this balance between natural and divine. And I just like, I love, so like if you understand that, then like 7, like the tzaddik falls 7 times, right? Like it's like he falls 7 times, like he actually, like we spoke about here a lot, like you read the L'tzorach Aliyah, like he falls all these 7 times until he like reaches this level of holiness. Like he keeps on transcending. Like through every fall, he transcends a little more and transcends a little more and transcends a little more until he reaches this high level of holiness. And how does he do that? Like just through simple faith. Just like you can't like get through it in any other. You can't. I mean, it's hard to get through life in any other way.
I think that 7 is the number bordering between physical and. It's like the border between the physical and the spiritual, so it's the crossover, like the number that brings the physical into the... It's
the number that brings the physical. 7 represents...
The next level. Right?
Yeah.
But 8 is the Malam and Hatavas, 7 is the
8 is like Nisim, and like Lamalam and Hatavas, and 7 is like 7 is our world, like bringing, like it's our job, like to bring in the holiness into the mundane.
So would you say it's the transition between the holiness and the mundane? Between the mundane and the holiness?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because also another 7 is you count 7 Sheva Shabbasos.
Right.
When you count Sphira until you get to
Shavuos.
Right, from the Shai until Shavuos.
There's tons of I mean, also like Sheva Nikiyim, Sheva, like there's a lot of...
Right. And 8 is infinity.
Right, and I guess, so 7 is a transition, the 8th day is a bris milah, like that's into the spiritual. So
right. Okay. I don't know why specifically bris is 8. Like I didn't. That's interesting.
Bris is 8. It's entering spirit. It's going from the physical
making the
spirit, making the physical spiritual.
It's making.
7 also represents shlemas. Like
Sounds
it's
like 7 also.
Right. Yeah. It's more.
Zone.
There must be another reason for. It's not It's a trend. It's complete. 7 is like complete. There's holiness there and mundane there. Yeah.
When you cross over to 8, I think it's the
supernatural. Next world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Hanukkah is 8. Yeah. Okay. So, and this is Sheva Yipol Tzaddik Vikam. Tzaddik can fall 7 times and get up. The last letters of which spell Amalek, the stumbling block of the 7 wisdoms that causes people to fall, God forbid, right? Yet if the Tzaddik falls 7 times, he gets up by means of faith. And like I think I learned one time, I didn't like actually. I think Amalek is also the same the same gematria as Suffolk. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't like actually sit here and do the gematria to it, but I remember learning that one time. So Suffolk is doubt, right? And doubt is literally the opposite of faith. Like it comes to attack your faith. That's what it is, and that's what Amalek comes to represent. So this is what is written about Moshe Rabbeinu during the war with Amalek in Shemos. And thus his hands were faith, his hands were Emunah. Through faith, he weakened Amalek, the wisdoms and the philosophical inquiries as mentioned above, right? That like only through Emunah could you weaken. There's so many times where like I've been in an argument and I'm like, I don't know, like I can't argue. Like you're a better arguer than me. I just know this, you know, like leave me alone, you know. But okay, and this is and his right. Well, you're okay. And this is and his hands were faith. His hands alludes to applied mitzvos, which correspond to faith, as it is written in Tehillim. All your mitzvos are faith. Through faith and applied mitzvos, which are the antithesis of Amalek, he weakened him. And faith is prayer, as Onkelos renders were faith as spread out in prayer. For prayer alters the natural order, so that the wisdoms and philosophical inquiries, which are based on the natural order, are negated. So, like, as much as, like, I mean, just like once you bring it into tefillah, then already like you're above the natural order and you're above everything, because that's where like nisim comes in. For us, it is this which is the essence of the ultimate goal, that the prayer should be encompassed in God's oneness, as in He is your praise and He is your Lord from Devarim. Prayer and God are one, as it were. For in truth, this is the ultimate goal. So just like on this one line, prayer and God are one, as it were. So it's like, I mean, just like to bring it down practically, I think, no, it was Rebbe Nachman that says that like sometimes like you'll pray and like you'll feel like it's like an outer body experience. Like it's like something takes over you and like you're able to pray like very fervently, you know? And Rebbe Nachman says like that's Hashem like actually coming into your tefillah, you know, and coming into like you and like praying through you. Okay, 3. But the philosophers and non-believers explain the entire Torah according to their wisdoms and heresies. They interpret everything, the entire Torah, and even the applied mitzvos recorded in the Torah based on abstraction and logic. Not only is this the case with the stories recorded by scriptures, which they say refer solely to allegory and form, their intellectual concepts, but even the applied mitzvos specified in the Torah. They interpret everything as alluding solely to their intellectual concepts and wisdoms, and deny the straightforward meaning entirely. So, like, what's the straightforward meaning? Is like, because Hashem said, you know? This is, as our sages of blessed memory taught, Amalek would cut off circumcised penises and throw them upwards. For circumcision is the first mitzvah, which our patriarch Abraham, the first of the believers, was commanded. But Amalek, who symbolizes the philosophers and the non-believers, denies all the mitzvahs and interprets everything only as referring to intellectual concepts as mentioned above. This is the meaning of cut off circumcised penises and throw them upwards. They deny the mitzvah of circumcision and throw it upwards to the intellect. For they interpret everything as referring to intellectual concepts and deny the practical application of the mitzvot. Fortunate is the one who knows nothing at all of them.
It's also a denial that you can make that physical spiritual.
Oh.
That's what bris milah is. It's
right.
Thinking, like I was actually learning
I love that.
with Rachel, and that there's chol is chol, and then kodesh is kodesh. Oh, Rav Kook says this, and kodesh kodashim is when you manage to fuse the two.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, so.
Right.
I think it was a rejection of that idea.
Right.
It's separate.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. Therefore, Amalek is subdued mainly through faith, the concept of, and his hands were faith, as mentioned above. So that's the end of this piece.
So huge. Like, is it okay if I I'm applying it right now? So like
Yeah.
what's going on here, like in this country and this war, like once I also left the share and there was a piece that you taught about like the like klipas and like the dark forces surround us round and around, and when we do a mitzvah, like they're all there to attack us. And I couldn't like help but see the image of like when the girls were coming back, they were surrounded by like this evil, and I'm like, but actually they had no power. They have no power over them, because I was like, okay, so like what gives them power? And I'm like thinking like the doubt, I don't know if this makes sense, but like the doubt that we have like is what gives them power. Like the doubt.
Right. The fear there of like
Fear.
they can't
Right.
touch us, they can't do something. If you know for sure that they can't do anything, and they become not as scary.
It's like
Right.
having certainty in times when everything is pointing in the other way.
Right.
And it's like,
Love that.
that's, I don't know. I love how like when Trump's, he's like, of course, this is what we're doing. Yeah. There's so much certainty. I'm like, wow, like, yes.
Right.
And he gets it
So-
done.
Yeah, but it's like, there's no doubt in his voice. It's like,
Right,
not
we'll
like
see.
the leader speaks like, yeah.
Right. No, but it's true. I mean, that's why people can't argue. Like when you come with fear, like it's a different thing. When you come
There's
with
no opening, what?
That one hostage that was released with the other terrorist organization, she had fear because she didn't have that confidence. Do you know what I'm talking was it Agam? It wasn't Agam, it was Arbel. Arbel. She did have fear, more fear than the others, possibly because
No, not that they did or they didn't, just the idea of like being surrounded, like if they don't have any power, and think about what's giving them power, and like the only thing, I have no power politically right now, like I can't do anything in that sense.
You got
But it's like my doubt in myself, or my doubt in different things in my life is giving the other side power, maybe.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's
Like,
the
what can I
only
do
thing
in
we
my
could do,
life
because
to-
we're not going there.
Right.
We're not doing it. The only thing we could do is the last sentence there is like to fight Amalek by faith. Like
Right.
we just need what we're doing right now. Like this is.
I love it. I love it that you
Exactly.
guys just brought it to that. That's
I
great.
had this patient, he was like this 19-year-old, really wise head star boy. And I was like, there's just nothing we can do. And he says, it was like Parshas Shmos time, and he's like, of course you can. If Miriam said she couldn't do anything, we wouldn't have Moshe Rabbeinu. Like,
Right.
he's like, oh, everyone can do something. And I was just like, but what can I do? Like, give me the answer.
This right.
Right.
Learning and
Yeah.
Right.
So it was
And
like-
having faith.
It was so cute.
That is cute.
But each in our own life.
Right. You're so right. It's perfect.
That's why they all.
Like it's so easy.
It fights the dark side.
It's so easy to get so stuck in, oh my
Right.
gosh, I'm so much pity.
You heard what happened
Then I
when
go
we
back
went
to
to
my life
the
and I
Tal
try.
and the Americans I took,
Right.
the sun went down the second we walked into the first room, and it wasn't even the amputee section. And the nurse starts screaming, הוא לא אכל ארוחת בוקר. I'm like, לא, זה רק בגלל שהוא אמריקאי. The father was like, no, he had an amazing breakfast at the Astoria or
Would
whatever.
you bring people to tell
Yeah,
shiur?
yeah.
As what?
Not just because I go all the time, so they asked me to bring them because I know my way around. As I'm walking out of the hospital, a friend called me, can you go tomorrow with me to Telstra? I'm like, I'm leaving right now.
You go to
sorry.
visit people?
I want to visit the soldiers.
I want to come with you.
What?
When do you go?
Well,
you
all
just
the time.
She always goes. Yeah.
Take
She's
them stuff, or you just.
I sometimes take them stuff.
So my kids.
I
did
went
the other-
Thursday, I bought them fresh baked challahs, and tell me I went the next day with muffins. No one wanted my muffins. There's like, if chalot shalach, if chalot shalach.
Okay, guys. Last 8 minutes. We're gonna start the story.
Which one? Which story?
The sophisticated and the simpleton. The Chocham and the
wow.
Tam.
I love how you're matching this together.
I mean, I feel it. Like I said, I feel like this is really the only way to understand the
By the way, I
simplicity.
just want to say, this story illustrates this concept.
Right.
Without illustration,
Right.
illustrates.
Exactly. Okay. The sophisticate, the Chacham, and the Tam in Hebrew. Okay. The sophisticate and the simpleton. So we'll see how far I mean, it's gonna be like a few shiur in this story also. Okay.
What's the story
Which
called?
story?
The Chacham and the Tam, the sophisticate and the simpleton.
If you've got this edition.
Yeah, page 160. Yeah, my edition too. Okay. There were once two homeowners who lived in the same city. They were very, very wealthy, and they had large mansions. Each one had one son, both of whom studied in the same school.
Yes.
One. Oh, okay. Yeah, you'll still be able to get the deal. Okay. One of these sons had deep understanding and was quite sophisticated. The other one was simple. He was not lacking in intelligence, but had a straightforward, humble approach without any sophistication. So just to highlight that line, right? Because it's going to become like more confusing as the story goes on, because it's going to seem like the simple one is really stupid, but Rebbe Nachman's clarifying it right here. The other one was simple. He was not lacking in intelligence, but had a straightforward, humble approach without any sophistication. So two sons, same school, same city, best friends, okay? but we're gonna like discuss them as the story goes on. These two sons loved each other very much, even though one was sophisticated while the other was simple with a very humble mind. Nevertheless, they loved each other very much. In the course of time, the two homeowners began to decline. They went lower and lower and lower until they lost everything and became poor. The only thing they managed to keep was their mansions. Meanwhile, the sons were beginning to get older, so their father said to them, "We do not have the means to support you. Do whatever you will be able to." The simpleton went and learned the trade of a shoemaker. So it was like a shoemaker is considered like a lowly trade, okay? The sophisticate, however, felt that he had deep understanding and did not want to occupy himself with such simple work. He made up his mind that he would go out into the world and see what he could do. He went to the marketplace and strolled around. He saw a large wagon with 4 horses in harness rushing through. He called out to the merchants, "From where are you?" "From Warsaw," they replied. "Where are you heading?" "To Warsaw." He asked them, "Maybe you could use a helper." They saw that he was bright and diligent and found this pleasing. They took him on, and he went with them, serving them very well on the road. However, he considered himself quite sophisticated, and when they came to Warsaw, he decided, "Now that I am Warsaw, why should I be bound to them? Maybe there's some better place I will go and see what I can find." So he hails down these merchants, and he
Which is a ride.
right, and he hitches a ride, and he I think he originally he planned to work for them, and but then like as he's with them, he's like, I could do better, He went to the marketplace and began to seek information. He asked about the people who had brought him there, and at the same time looked to see if he could find a better situation. He was told that the people who had brought him were honest men, and it would be good to stay with them. However, one might find it difficult since their business takes them to very distant places. He went further and saw the shop clerks going to the market. They seemed very elegant as they went about their affairs with their hats and long pointed shoes and other elegant mannerisms in dress and bearing. This refinement appealed to his sense of sophistication and intelligence, and also does not involve leaving one's home. So like we already see, right? So the sophisticate, the Chocham, he didn't want to, the honest, even though these guys were honest men and people were like, you should stay with them, they're good peeps, he was like, no. And he got enticed with these people who were dressed very fancy. He went to the men who had brought him there and thanked them, but told them that he no longer felt comfortable remaining with them. His work for them along the journey would be in exchange for having brought him there. He then took a job with a shopkeeper. It was customary that new employees receive very low wages and do very hard work. Only then could they be promoted to higher positions. The employer made him do hard work. He was sent to lords carrying merchandise. He would strain himself carrying large bolts of cloth under his arms. The work was burdensome for him. Sometimes he would have to carry his load up many flights. The work was very hard for him. Being a philosopher, he made up his mind. Why do I need such work? The main reason a man works is that so he will be able to get married and earn a living. But this is not my concern now. I will have plenty of time for this in the future. The best thing for me now would be to travel all over the world. I can go to different lands and enjoy the sights. You know what? It's so funny because I just realized, it says, he's thinking, why should I stay with these people? I could travel the world, but the original people were traveling the world. Yeah, I just caught that now. I didn't realize that the first time. He went to the market and saw merchants traveling on a large coach. He asked them, where are they going? To Ligorna. Would you take me there? Sure. They took him along and went there. From there, they traveled to Italy and to Spain. Years passed. Since he had visited so many countries, he became all the more sophisticated. Finally, he made up his mind. Now is the time to set a goal for myself. He began to philosophize about what sort of occupation to pursue. He decided that it would be very good to learn the trade of a goldsmith. It was pleasant, prestigious work and required great skill. It was also very lucrative work. With his intelligence and philosophical inclination, it did not take him many years to master this craft. At the end of a quarter of a year, he had mastered everything in this craft, and then became very highly skilled. He was more expert even than the master who had taught him. Then he began thinking about it. Even though I have this skill, it is not enough. It might not be prestigious now, but at another time, some other skill might be more prestigious. Therefore, he apprenticed himself to a gem cutter. As a result of his great intelligence, he mastered this craft in a relatively short time, in a quarter of a year. Still, he philosophized about his situation. Although I have mastered 2 skills, it is possible that there would come a time when neither one of them would be valuable. The best thing would be for me to learn a profession that is always valuable. Pondering this with his intelligence and philosophy, he concluded that he should study medicine. This was something always necessary and important. In order to study medicine, one had to study Latin and know how to write it. One also had to study philosophy formally. With his intellect, he mastered all this in a quarter of a year. He thus became a great physician and philosopher, expert in all areas of wisdom. But then the world began to seem like nothing to him. Through his wisdom, he had become a great craftsman, intellectual, and physician, and everyone in the world seemed like nothing. Okay, I'm going to stop here, but just to like recap it, basically. So he just kept on going and going, like nothing was ever enough, you know? I heard this great thing, like also like the second like we wake up in the morning, just speaking about enough, you know, the second we wake up in the morning, we're already thinking, oh, I didn't get enough sleep. Like before our legs even hit like the floor, you know, we're like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep. And then, and like, shoot, I need to make more money. And shoot, whatever it is, you know, and it's like, nothing's ever enough. Nothing's ever enough. And like, it's just like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just like wake up in the morning and be like, I have enough and I am enough, you know, like it would be.
Modani.
Right. That's really the point, you know, Rabba Emunah, like Hashem has faith in us, like we're enough. Hashem tells us right away, you are enough this morning as you get up, you know, but we don't you know, it's whatever, it's an avoda to work on that. But like you see, like then the world began to seem like nothing to him, like everything was just like empty, like nothing was enough, so everything was empty.
Did we do this story last year as well, right?
I think we read parts of it.
We read parts of it.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't read it from the beginning.
Yeah. We're gonna like
delve deep.
I hope to. I mean, it happens to be a simple story, and it's funny because it's about simplicity. But like with all, I guess Rebbe Nachman decided to give us a break. You know.
It's not like the Lost Princess.
Right.